Apparently Hanzo just got revamped, and I actually don't think he's that overpowered. Yeah, sure, he gets banned at some ranks, but if your team knows how to counter him, he cannot do much. Let me explain. So people would probably argue that he's unfair and he's banned. And it's probably because he is indeed unfair. Or at least in the early game to mid game. Like, look at this. This hero can dive turrets and lock you down without risking his life. He also does not require much skill to play, unlike other assassins. He has a lock-on skill for an assassin now, which is a lot better. His body is also invulnerable now, which means that you can do this. Looks so broken, right? So Rald, what in the yapperoni were you talking about when you said that Hanzo wasn't overpowered or broken? Well, people, that was only the early game and a bit of mid-game. In the mid-game, and late game, he's horrendous. Like, don't get me wrong, it's good that he has a better early game and lock-in skill compared to his old self, especially considering that he's an assassin. But Rald, don't all assassins fall off late game? Well, yes and no. Assassins like Hayabusa have a more complex skill set with very high mobility, which allows him to fight properly late game. And same with most other assassins. Meanwhile, Hanzo, his playstyle as well. It is kind of niche. His playstyle is just like an assassin, without as much mobility as a usual assassin. He's forced to attack the enemies directly. So once he's literally locked on by many enemies, he won't be able to do anything more. In a mid to late game fight, his body becomes so easy to kill. His skills also don't deal much damage anymore. Late game, usually enemies tend to gather a whole lot more, primarily in higher ranks, of course. His skill set is more like fighter assassin, without the sustained fires usually have, and without the insane mobility assassins have. His only guarantee of living is his ulti. So you'll mostly be collecting assists. Enemies also don't even need to catch up to your level. They just need to be together, which at least almost always happens in mythical glory and above. Hanzo's first skill is also his main source of damage, but you have to get full 5 stacks before even dealing damage. And most of the time, that's not even enough to end someone in the mid-game. You would need to do some lot more basic attack. And near late game even with teammates near you, you usually would die first before even being able to finish the enemy. Or the best you could do, most of the time, is kill one enemy or do first skill on one of them. See this example. This is me doing first skill with 4 stacks. Now this is me with 5 stacks. Insane damage difference, right? That's because they made it so that only when he has 5 stacks does he activate his max hit points based damage scaling. And yeah, it's no longer lost hit points, it's max hit points now. His marks could also be easily purified and removed by certain skills too, and he doesn't deal any damage if it does. So most of the time, late game, you'll just tickle the enemy lineup every time you engage in a team fight, unless you're in lower ranks. Don't get me wrong again, I love Hanzo too. He's fun, and I mained him even before the revamp, but he falls off mid-game and then falls off again late game. He's also easily counterable if you and your team also just draft a little more properly, which is also a higher rank thing. Like, look at this matchup. Hanzo is trying to ambush me here, but in a realistic situation, he wouldn't be able to kill me alone in mid-game to late game since everyone begins to gather, unlike other assassins who would be able to. And when he goes back, he's most likely low since his body gets damaged too now. Since I know the general direction he came from, I just ult with my global ult to kill him. He doesn't even need to die for me to do this. Other matchups are, well, Harley, where his ultimate damage transfers to his body, and unlike old Hanzo, where his body's always full up anyway, this Hanzo's soul damage will transfer to his body, which means death. And Moskov, who can do the same thing as Xavier. So yeah, he has definitive counters. Another choice is just to instantly kill him with teamwork. But then again, it probably would only happen in real higher ranks like Mythical Glory and above. And since late game you have more damage, it's easier to kill him. If enemy is alone, he can kill most of them. But if enemy is accompanied with someone, it just becomes unnecessarily hard. And he can't do anything before team fight is over since his ultimate is in cooldown. He still couldn't fight properly on his normal body despite the skill changes. I mean, his second skill literally doesn't deal damage. While his first skill on normal form deals very little damage, he most likely would lose a basic attack battle against late game heroes too, which further supports my higher rank claim. So I wanted to test how often Hanzo Bug is on Mythical Glory to Mythical Immortal, but I haven't been playing much since I've been busy with college, so I invited some of my best friends so I get taken to the ranks. And no, they're not fake since I literally checked my opponent's ranks, and my opponents are either Immortal or Glory. So first match, Hanzo didn't get banned, and I got to use him. Second match didn't get banned either, and third match he also didn't get banned, but enemy picked him, and we destroyed him. Although fourth match, he did get banned. So even if Hanzo is a permaban on lower ranks than Glory and Immo, he isn't as much as a hassle in upper ones. Although they still ban him, just not as often. Probably because of his annoying capabilities. Also talking about new Hanzo, I think people were kind of sleeping on old Hanzo. Although he didn't have as good an early game. He was pretty good on his own right and had a better late game and defense abilities. It was so much easier to get MVP with old Hanzo. And I've seen enough Hanzo mains complain about the revamp. And I agree with them to some degree. Old Hanzo was possibly the best jungler in late game and the best jungler defender. With all those AoE skills he's never used in pro scenes because of how niche he is to take objectives. But hey, at least he's meta now. Now before going to the builds, I want to show you guys this bug. Here I'm using normal build and I'll be killing the Laylas. Watch my energy bar. The energy regeneration is pretty normal, right? Now watch what will happen when I use mana boots. Watch my energy bar. I will get more energy from every kill. Yeah, a lot more apparently. So here's a side-by-side. So well, turns out those mana boots Hanzo users weren't wrong, guys. Anyways, this is caused by the mana boots passive, which supposedly regens 4% mana per kill. So it somehow translates Hanzo's energy code into mana. And it doesn't work on other heroes somehow. This could really help Hanzo in the late game though. So it's really good. Now going to new builds and emblem. Instead of Weakness Finder, now use War Cry or Lethal Ignition for more damage. You can also swap Swift for Rupture for more damage. For new Hanzo, there are only 3 types of builds. The common build is for, well, commoners who play Hanzo. Now you build Golden Staff first instead of Demon Hunter Sword, and build Demon Hunter Sword later, since mainly because his first skill scaling is now max HP instead of lost HP. And you want to abuse first skill early. The Thunderbelt build is there if you want to be tankier, and it's also good if you want to abuse the Mana Boots bug, since it helps you survive longer. And then there is the critical builds. I know it's strange, but it's my personal favorite, and I mean it. Since now Hanzo sucks late game, critical build helps with that, and you don't lose early game damage either since Windtalker stats compensate for Golden Staff passive. I've probably had the most success with critical build too somehow. You can use first skill without full mark in late game, since it doesn't really deal much damage anymore anyway, and you can still deal tremendous damage with your basic attacks. I highly recommend it since it covers his weaknesses. Well, I guess that's all for this video. Reminder that all this is an opinion, and I could be wrong. Thanks for watching.